This is Rich Friend, broker at Ricardo Amigo Real Estate, and this is another Rare Conversation podcast. I'm joined today on my left, Aaron Warkov, top agent that came down a few years ago from New York. And with us also is on my right, Marina
Gutierrez.
I was going to say your full name, and then I'm like, no, don't say it. Got the right day.
That was good.
On my right is Marina Garnica, and then we have our sales manager, Tyson Gargas. We're coming at you today from Casa Nacuii, located on the beach side of El Pocito. This is a brand new listing of Marina and her sister Perla. It's one of the contemporary, modern, just finished house that kind of reflects what's going on now in Todos Santos. It's a really elegant house, checks a lot of boxes. It's 3,000 meters, which is 3/4 of an acre of property, and it's got a price tag of $2,575,000. We'll get back to it a little later. What I'd like to start with is we have some statistics that Tyson had put together, and I'd like to start with kind of where we felt we are in 2025, maybe comparing it to 2024, or just talking about the market in general of 2025. I'll start with Aaron, and we could just go around.
Good. Hi, you're at workout. 2025 is, if I was just looking at the market right now, I'd say that I'm really optimistic about what's coming up in this season. I feel like that when I was selling in New York and I sold in the city and I did commercial as well as industrial properties, and then I sold in the Hamptons, which was really a luxury market and a second, third, fourth home market, that this place is similar in that aspect that, you know, these are second, third homes a lot of times for people down here. And the kind of people that have disposable income right now who are really buying it for international properties, I think are focused on this area. Cabo, Baja, Todos Santos, this whole area right now is on their radar. And they're very shrewd buyers. And my thought pattern along this year is that they usually wait for the trough of the market, where maybe we had some shaky market for the last couple of years. It wasn't as aggressive as we hoped it would be. But right now, I feel like we've hit a point now where they see value, where they see that they come in now, they find the house that they really want to buy, and that they can see runway going up for the next 3 to 5 years easily. And so I feel that this season could be a real shift in the market. It could be that point where, like I said, you buy it now and you watch your values increase over time. So I think it's strategically a great time to buy down here, because there are a number of new projects such as Casa Nacuii, which is a gorgeous house and really designed for American, Canadian, and probably mainland Mexico buyers. Very high-end, very beautiful, gorgeous views. This is what a lot of people are looking for that I've been touring with, and homes that they've been targeting. So, yeah.
So we've got a kind of a level market in 2025 with the foreseeable market for 2026 on the uprise. Marina, would you like to comment on 2025?
Well, definitely agree with Aaron. And as we review the market at the office with you and Tyson all the time, and everybody can tell that the Pacific side of the Baja is truly becoming the most desirable area for a lot of people to come and live here, not only for investment, but also because of lifestyle. So definitely the market is looking good, and we're all happy to be here.
Well said. Right. Tyson, do you have anything you'd like to add as far as what you work a lot with analytics and statistics. You do some great stuff. You put out some great quarterly reports, annual reports. What would you say for 2025? What was the biggest maybe change that you had seen?
Yeah, for 2025, what we've really noticed is we're starting to see a shift. I think this area, a lot of the times, and you you know, historically, Richie, over the past 20 years, that land sales have outpaced home sales, have outpaced condo sales, condos, you know, more recently, but land sales historically have outpaced home sales. What we're seeing this year is we're actually seeing a shift away from that. More and more people, I think, are looking at products that are already completed, homes that are already completed, homes like Casa Nacuii here, because we're hitting that point. There's always a point in the market where people, educated buyers, are looking at the cost to build a home. What does it cost to actually build a home down there? What does it cost to buy the land, build the home, the permits, everything from start to finish? If I look at that number and then I look at what a comparable property that I as a buyer would be building, I think we're at a point where they're right there. Building costs have increased, not necessarily labor, although labor has increased a little bit, but it's more the materials costs have actually increased to a point that people are opting to, now we see more and more buy something already finished, and not only buy something already finished, but buy something that's turnkey ready to go. I think we're seeing buyers now that have the income, but maybe not the time to come down and take on a project. They don't want to maybe outfit a home with furnishing or anything like that. It's more like, hey, I've just got a certain amount of time. I want to just enjoy this property. I don't want to have to go look for furnishings, maybe go to Guadalajara like people are used to. I think we're seeing that shift is what really stood out to me this year in the market when I looked at the numbers.
So all three of you bring up some really good points. And I think having been here for quite some time, we are at one of those unique market places where buying property and building is almost par with buying a finished product. So I'd like to kind of go into it's something that always comes up, especially this time of year. I hear a lot of people, a lot of agents and brokers in Cabo doing podcasts. I know Tyson and I had done one separately about kind of, is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market for 2025? And where is it going? Are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market, and why? Let's start with Marina on this one.
Well, my perception is that the market is constantly evolving, but to me, it feels more like a buyer's market coming up, and also is very surprising or very good to see that buyers are even more informed now, and they are looking not only for the price, but more value into the property that they're buying, and also for lifestyle too. So that's what I believe.
Tyson?
You know, we've been, I think there were a lot of years, I think everyone would agree, like unanimously, without really having to look too hard or even look at the analytics, that we were in a seller's market. I mean, there's a lot of people looking to purchase in the area. So as a natural point of that, a lot of people start buying land and building spec homes to put out on the market to kind of fill that need. And I think we got to a point last year where we kind of tipped the scales into more of a buyer's market, because we did have a lot of inventory. Although, like the video that you put out, Richie, if we looked at the actual absorption rate, depending on how we wanted to see that percentage, we could still make the case that we were in a seller's market. But I think just the overall impression would be that we kind of, inventory actually outpaced demand, and we kind of swung into more of a buyer's market. I think what I would look for in 2026 is, as economic factors that have kind of maybe quieted down a little bit and people are kind of getting accustomed to kind of what's going on in the global economy, that will be in a balanced market. That's kind of what I see for the coming year ahead. If I'm looking towards 2026, I think we'll kind of come out of like maybe a flat market and just be in a balanced market where the inventory and the demand are kind of more or less even.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling similar sentiment to that, which is that people are starting to shift the projects and what they're building, who they're targeting to. So projects like this are really, they already knew who their buyers were going to be, and they priced it correctly for the market. There were a lot of inventory before that we felt was overpriced, and because this market traditionally was just growing and growing and growing, and we went into probably end of 23 into 24, still thinking we were going to still see a lot of appreciation year over year. And so people are probably pricing a little more aggressively yet. And what you've seen is people pull that back a bit.
Right.
It's not that the market really has taken a big dive. It's just that it got a little overpriced at the time. So it kind of did a natural reset. But I think that the projects that are going on now and people building projects like this, they're building it, the pricing it, everything is correct. So now I'd say it's feeling more balanced to me going into this year when you have a product that people want.
Right.
I think the buyer's side, the buyer's market side is going to be with older inventory, and that's where it's going to be super important for those ones to be priced correctly and also staged correctly.
Yeah.
And that's where we can come in to really help you. If you listen to us and you apply just a little bit of elbow grease and put maybe a little bit into some of the older properties, we can bring them up into like a much better showable property and get a higher price for them.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point that Aaron brings up, the fact of you can actually split the market. We're looking at the market overall, but if you split it into micro markets for the type of product that's out there, if it's more of a modern home that a lot of people want, or more what's traditionally been like a kind of the standard for architecture in the area, maybe something from 15, 20 years ago. It's maybe not, although that still is like more of a niche market now, it's not the norm. And I think if you break up the market into a couple different ones, then you could parse it up even more. And that makes a lot of sense.
Some really good answers. And I think that, in my opinion, I always look at it as what's happened is I think we're receiving more sophisticated buyers, and therefore sellers have to step up their game a bit more and be a little more competitive in pricing. I think that sellers also need to understand that 20 to 25% growth rate over the past 5 or 6 years is not sustainable. And if it drops off to maybe a 10% growth rate, still a growth rate, but that doesn't mean it's a loss in market, right? It just means that your property value is growing. It's just not growing at the rate it was.
Right. Those appreciation rates of those, especially during those COVID years, I mean, we can't use that to compare like general trends in the market over the past 20 years, right? Those are sort of more anomaly years, and you can't use those to set your metric. You can't use those as your guideline.
Yeah, but I needed to say to that too, like if you're looking at the United States right now as an example, they're maybe seeing growth rates in like a 3% range right now with what's going on up there. So, oh darn, we're at 8 to 10% growth here. So it still looks pretty attractive down here. Even if it was 8 to 10% growth rates in states, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So
one of the questions, because it always interests me, because I've been around for a while, and sometimes I'm not seeing the full picture and changes that are taking place. In your guys' opinion, and I'll start with Tyson on this one, what was the biggest change that you saw for the market and for the area in 2025?
Great question. I think for the market, what I'm seeing is maybe a shift from our buyer demographic. Traditionally, it's been Americans, Canadians, then Mexicans. We're actually seeing Mexican national buyers become our number 2 buyer. And I think that's not only is that buyers coming from the mainland, but it's actually buyers coming from Cabo and La Paz that either want a vacation home or maybe relocate because, the acknowledgement of those areas getting more and more expensive and a little more crowded, people sitting in traffic thinking, maybe this is not what I actually want out of my Baja living experience. So I think all those factors come into play. That's the biggest kind of shift that I see, is that we have more local buyers purchasing in this area.
More locality. Okay.
Right, exactly. From people from Cabo and La Paz.
Cabo, La Paz, and even people that live here, have you noticed that they're saying this is such a good investment? Maybe I'll buy a condo at Cerritos. Maybe I'll buy some property and sit on it. Maybe I'll buy a second home to rent out.
Yeah, and I think that, so with all that going on, we're also getting a lot more. I think traditionally we've had, when we talk the higher end stuff, we've maybe had someone who was interested in something like that can maybe come up and see a few homes. I think for this year and for the following years, we're going to see a lot more inventory where people are actually, if they were looking in Cabo originally, or they were living down there, they want kind of something comparable in that sort of price range. When I say that, maybe like $2 million and up, There's a lot more inventory and a lot more inventory coming online. So I think those buyers will have a lot more choices that they have never had in the past.
Yeah, very good point. All right.
Piggybacking on that, I'd say some of the biggest things I've seen are a lot more mainland Mexico developers who are coming here looking at upstarting projects, and that could be multiple houses, it could be boutique hotels, condo projects. So I've been approached by a lot more people like that, looking for land, looking for favorable zoning, looking for advice on pricing structure so they can start doing their homework and figuring out what they want to do. And so there is a lot of that now that I'm seeing, that it seems to be that mainland Mexico is being a little bit saturated, and there's not as much profit to be garnered there with projects. And they're starting to look at Baja now as like their next place to start to invest and to start to build. So I noticed that a lot, and just basically a lot of what Tyson was saying, exactly similar thought patterns around that too.
This is a really good point, because the some of the people and just families from mainland Mexico and people that see opportunity in development, we're looking in other places, other beachfront tourist communities in Mexico and even Cabo, and they weren't considering Todos Santos because there is challenges here. There's no airport. There's so they weren't kind of considering that. So now they're seeing what opportunity is available here, and they're making, they're penciling numbers, and you're saying, wait a minute, look at the growth that's shown.
But I would say the whole airport idea, like beachfront or beach adjacent properties within an hour and 15 minutes from an airport.
Is that
with a uncrowded, beautiful, brand new highway the whole way, right? No traffic. Like, I know when I leave the airport, I'm going to be here inside of an hour and 15 minutes.
and we're not sitting
Anytime of the day.
Yeah.
We're not sitting in traffic. So it's a beautiful drive. It's not a problem. I mean, I lived in LA, I lived in New York, and somebody who's just going cross town could take it out.
Sure.
So
That's
to
a
get
great
there
point.
to here this is still like amazing.
And that's kind of what Marina was touching on before about lifestyle and kind of what you're looking for. Marina, what do you see as a change in 2025 for market and area?
I wanted to say and add to what Tyson and Aaron were saying about the kind of investors that are looking to buy here in the area. Also, a lot of the investors from the Mexican Caribbean are looking now towards investing in this area because exactly of that, what Aaron was mentioning, the lifestyle over here. They already identified that their buyers are not longer looking for the crowds that are happening over there in the Caribbean. They're looking to buy and to live and have the experience of a more quiet and safe place like it's Baja, especially in Pescadero in Todos Santos area. And luckily we have a good inventory, so it's a good spot to be in.
This is a really good point, and I'm going to kind of touch on this and say that a lot of people ask me about like I've been here October, I just celebrated 25 years here, and a lot of people ask me what is the biggest change, and I can still say this. First of all, we're a destination location. You have to want to be here. Like you as I mentioned, it's an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half from the airport. You jump on the toll road and you're here. You can fly into La Paz, depending upon where you're from, and that's the same thing. In an hour and 15 minutes you're here. But it's still a destination location. We don't have the resorts. We don't have the swimming beaches, if you will. So to me, you really weed out a lot of that. And so it's people that are kind of share this like lifestyle, quality of life, and what we were speaking about before, not having to deal with the idea of like, oh, I'm sitting in traffic, or it's a getaway. It really is a getaway. And what people ask me is like, what is the biggest change you've seen? And I tell people when they don't believe me, because people that have come in when I did 25 years ago, they're saying, wow, this place has really changed. And that's true. But we are still relatively in the infancy stage in Todos Santos, Pescadero, and the area.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think? Like to keep we're going through that period where we're growing up, and how do we keep the integrity of what everyone's attraction was to begin with, right? How do we maintain that integrity, especially us as kind of promoters of the area and kind of people who are saying, okay, this is where we want to be, and our motto is "We get why you're here." We don't want to shut the door on people, but we want to be responsible in our respect for what we have in this community. What do you see as kind of the challenges, or maybe the idea that that's why people are coming here is because of the community we've created over the years?
Yeah.
Aaron, you want to start on that?
Oh, bacon. So that's a political hotbed too sometimes. But the good thing about the area is there are a lot of good people, and people that live here, and people that organize, and people that protest if they don't like something that's happening, and they try to go through all channels to try to resolve things and make sure the projects are built sensibly or they have less environmental impact. I personally hope that developers and people that come in here want to maintain what makes this special, right? If they're going to build a boutique hotel, let's build it into the land. Let's use low water usage. Let's use solar. Let's do things like that, right? I think those are all really positive spins on what would work and dovetail into the landscape here and things. Let's invest in infrastructure. Let's make sure that we fix things. We have adequate water. We have adequate fire department. Everything like this. That we're all investing in this and making sure that the community as a whole is benefiting from some of this development, right? I think there are always the views where you can look at Cabo and you can say, well, this is what happened to Cabo in 40 years, right? We went from a strip of sand, a fishing cannery there to what it is now. So I think that this place has a lot of people who see that and they say, well, people are leaving Cabo because it became what Cabo is. Right? And Cabo primarily is all oceanfront resort for the super rich when you get to the water. It becomes just, that's Cabo. This actually stretches back because we have huertas, farms, we have, a fishing culture here. We have everything. We've got this, beautiful little towns that are still have miles to go if they want to grow and do things still. If you take a drone and you go up high and you look down at most of the topography here, you'll see that there's really not that much coverage right now. When you're on the ground and you're looking, you say, oh, it's really grown. But when you look at the density of this area compared to what other areas are, it's not very dense right
It's a good point.
Yes.
Like they say, from the ocean to the desert, right? There's a lot of space still. Marina, did you want to share your thoughts on that?
I love the concept that Aaron, or the importance of what Aaron is mentioning right now. I do have a passion for doing events, and you know that. And 5 years ago, when I moved back to Mexico and I got here to Todos Santos, I created an event that was very successful, and it was called exactly that, Del Rancho a la Mar. And it was just honoring the diversity and the culture and the vibrant community locals and Americans have created. And I agree. I mean, it is so much more than just the beach and the surfing, which is amazing, but we are a richer community than that, and that makes us unique. It's really good. I am a local, so I think I'm the only local from this group. Yeah, I am. And I left Mexico many years ago, and 5 years ago I had an opportunity to choose where I wanted to live again, and I came back to Todos Santos because it's actually it's always been the nicest place in all the places that I have lived. So I love it here. It makes a difference to come and live here, not only to come and visit. So it's really amazing.
Tyson, would you like to share Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a place that's near and dear to my heart. It's always been a special area for me, from having the Sierra de la Lagunas, having Mount Picacho, the tallest peak in Baja Sur, right behind us. That just creates this, I don't know, special area when we're sandwiched between the mountains and the ocean. And I've always just felt like this area is just like nothing else in the world. And, you know, you can see why a lot of people are attracted to this place. You know, it's incredible. I mean, it's where I chose to live. I had opportunities to live in a lot of different places in the world, and they're all beautiful. But this place just has, you know, has a hold of me for you know, a host of reasons. I could talk all day about how much I love this place, but it's important to remember too why we all love this place, and it's up to us. We have a responsibility to this area that we love to also take care of it. And in our capacity as real estate professionals, I think that goes for educating people not only on the area, do our best to educate kind of the culture, and what's kind of been the history of the area as far as like sugarcane production, agriculture, fishing. All those things are really important to the history of this region. So it's our opportunity. There's an opportunity there, and it's our responsibility, I think, to educate people, and also educate people about what can and can't be done. It's not. I don't think this is a region that, if you want the mega resort or you're looking for the all-inclusive, this is not the spot for it. This area, I think, from the original indigenous people to the ranchos, to agriculture, to fishing, it's always attracted like a different type of person. Yeah. That's the person that kind of likes the outdoors. And, you know, that translates into modern times too. If you're an artist, if you're a surfer, if you're into the outdoors, hiking, you could hike for months and months in the mountains. And so there's so much to do here. And I think that is the tradition of this region. And it's always attracted those people. So I think keeping what's special, and for us to really educate people on what projects will fit. And we have outside developers come in, maybe educate them that this might not be the best area for their project. We have a responsibility, I think, to do that. So carrying that on and working as a real estate professional in a responsible way, because, you know, we live in this community. We love this community. I want, you know, my kids to grow up here and their kids to grow up here. It's a special place. So I think we have to keep that in the front of our minds and always act with integrity in our capacity as real estate professionals.
Amazing.
Great.
Cool.
I'd like to speak about the idea of we're trying to keep it, you know, based upon what's going on in the market, the real estate market in 2025 here, and what we may see in 2026. But I'd like to speak about recently interest rates just dropped in the U.S. and I believe Canada. I'm not sure about that.
Like basket Canadian.
Yeah. Let's talk about how that might affect our market. I mean, Tyson, I'll start with you on that one. How do you see interest rates and general economic conditions kind of overall internationally? How does that affect our local market?
Yeah, I think we had obviously some turmoil this beginning of this year, and people didn't know what to expect. And I think that's kind of either one of two things. People have gotten used to it, or it's actually starting to stabilize. So much of the market is based on emotions and it's psychological, right? It doesn't always have to be rooted in numbers. So as interest rates go up, there's a certain segment of buyers, obviously, that are pulling equity out of a home in the States and using that to fund a purchase down here, because this has traditionally been a cash market. Yeah. Although there are options, and I think we'll talk about that later, for, you know, options outside of just cash only. But so that, I think it's more of a psychological factor than anything else. When interest rates come down, when the stock market's doing well, that makes people feel optimistic about what's going on. And I think that more than anything else. And anyone who knows their history knows that a 6% interest rate or 6.5% interest rate is fantastic historically. I mean, when my parents bought their home, this was 35, 40 years ago now. I mean, I think they were paying 18% interest, and that was the norm at the time. Granted, housing prices were lower, but cost of living was a lot lower, but that was the rate that everyone was paying. So I think we have to remember that like when we talked about earlier about the COVID years being outliers for pricing, we have to think about that too. It's also outlier years that we can't use as guideline when it comes to interest rates, right? We can't, there may never be a time in our lifetime where we see 2.5, 2 3/4, 3% interest rates. It might never happen again. So that's something we have to also educate people on. Is like 6% is great. And if you're looking at borrowing on a 6%, I understand a lot of people are locked in at those lower rates, but may not want to do that, and I understand. But I think if you looked at the total cost involved and factor in what you guys were talking about with appreciation rates that we've seen here, even on slower years, you'll still be well and beyond what you would be if you kept your, slightly lower interest rate.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit more of a stimulus too for people to think about selling right now while we're in like the low sixes up in the States, that there are people that will buy up there in that price range. So I think this is a really opportune time if you want to sell in the States and take money out and buy here. To me, that makes complete sense right now. Like, I think this is that sort of cross in the market right there where it makes sense to sell, it makes sense to buy, and I think you'll do well that way. And, people talk about, fear of leaving a 3.5%, let's say, just right up there, because now they're going to have to move up to 6 and 6.2, right? Yeah. And like I said, historically, 6.2 is still really good. Yeah. I mean, remember the 9s and the 10s and it got crazy for a while. Yeah. Back in the day. So, I think that we're kind of used to where the economy is now, what's going on, and I think through that it's like an inflection point right now where I think that there'll be more buyers there and we can move forward.
And I think we have Billy here who is going through a transaction with financing, right?
Owner financing.
Owner financing. Yeah. Okay, yeah. But definitely our options, a lot of options, not only cash.
You being that you grew up here, interest rates down in Mexico right now are still in double digits. If you go to get a loan in Mexico with a lending institution, as a Mexican national, you're probably looking at 12, 13, 14%.
It is crazy. And then also a lot of the Mexican nationals too, or a big part of it, don't go through all of the Mexican lending or ways to earn points to buy a property. So it is a good position for foreigners to get a loan and purchase here, I think.
Final question, last comment. In just a brief summation, where do we see 2026 market in the season coming out? Marina, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I'm at a personal level working with you at RARE and all my colleagues, and then being a team with my sister. I'm very optimistic about 2026. 2025 is being great, and we have lots of new listings, past clients asking to buy again, referrals. So I'm very happy and excited about 2026.
Tyson?
I think there's always reason to be optimistic. I think the factors that we've kind of already gone over are reasons for people to have genuine optimism. But I think the saying in real estate, the best property purchase was the one you did last year or 5 years ago or even yesterday. Yeah. I think that's still the case. And I think people still have to remember that if they're kind of it's so hard to wait and just time a market and just get in like right at that perfect time. A lot of people stumble into that. Some people really wait and are able to do that. But I think if you look historically and remember that saying, if you look back at 2025 and you're in 2030, you'll be like, I'm so happy I bought in 2025. I'm so happy I bought in 2026. Because those people in 2030 that are looking to purchase will go,
why didn't I buy that lot below me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Desert my view. Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that?
Yeah, so I think that holds true. Like those sayings and those, I'm forgetting that term now, but people constantly use those because they're accurate and they hold water historically after, a couple hundred years. That is always the case in real estate. And I think with this area, especially that old street. So in that way, you know, I'll always remain optimistic about our market, because our market is buoyed by the environment that we live in, and this is I can't think of a better place to live.
Aaron, I think John.
Similar thoughts on that too. The markets come in cycles. You know, they go up, they plateau, they come down a little bit, they cool off. The next wave comes. I feel like right now we're here and we're heading for the next wave. I'm really optimistic about 2026. I feel like it was a year that just had to come, you know, for buyers and for this market. And like I said, I think all signs are good here, and like projects like this and other people who are really thinking about who the new buyers are, what they want, are building for that. So I feel really optimistic that this is going to be a strong year, and then the following years too.
All right. Well, I want to thank all of our agents and guests for being here for this podcast, kind of discussing the market in 25 and 26. I think it was a really healthy conversation about it. And please, you know, this will be coming out on Spotify, our website, and other YouTube. So please check it out on Rare Conversations. Very informative market opinions from different agents. Thank you very much.